How do you tell them that I can't hear?
Okay, everybody, I have 7 o'clock and we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. And if someone out in Zoom land would mind telling me if they can hear me.
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call, we're absent Trustee King tonight. Everyone else is here. With that, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we'll move on to item 2. I do have an addition to our agenda tonight. Item 2.5, we need to swear in our new town manager. And if there's no other additions or corrections, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve.
It's been moved and seconded we approve the agenda with the addition of item 2.5 for the swearing in of the new town manager. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. So item 2.5 is the swearing in of our new town manager. Okay, moving along, item 3, our consent agenda, which is minutes from January 7th and January 21st. Do we have any additions or corrections? Not, I'd entertain a motion. And 21st. And 21st. Okay, yeah, I'll second that. It's been moved to say that we accept the minutes from January 7th and January 21st. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the reports. I'll start to my right with Trustee Walker.
No reports, Mr. Mayor.
Trustee Ives.
Fire Mitigation Committee meeting last week under the tutelage of Paul, formerly run by David Douglas. I just want to acknowledge David Douglas's dedication to that committee and the hard work he did, and look forward to working for him going forward.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Bell.
Welcoming Caleb, and also just noting that with Caleb's filling the empty seat, reviving the nuisance tree task force and getting some of those objectives moving forward.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of combine mayor, town manager for January, and maybe a little bit of planning. Okay, so the $1.33 million LOMA request has been submitted and accepted by the state. That doesn't mean we have it. They still have to review it, but it's in and they've got the paperwork and they distribute it out from there for review. Last week, there were two things that came up really last minute and were due Friday, last Friday. One of them was fishing is fun. That's a total project cost of approximately $93,000. That has been submitted, and that would deal with the restrooms out the gazebo. And I will be talking about these later during the grants. The other one was a notice of interest for a FEMA hazard mitigation grant submitted, $60,000, and that has a 25% match. And again, I'll be discussing these more later on in the meeting. Our dumpster blind has been repaired. Okay, down at the hotel park, there is a hydrant, and we verified that that hydrant is currently inoperative. We cut the lock off and lifted it up. No water came out. We'll probably need to get location services in next to try to see where it goes. There's some dependencies on the landscaping around Hotel Park that's dependent upon water. So yeah, next step will be to do location services. In January, I put in over 158 hours as acting town manager. That, quite honestly, to have any volunteer, I think that's just an unreasonable expectation for any volunteer. So yeah, it's something I hope I never have to do again. Starting to meet with banks again on the bridge. I have a meeting with one bank tomorrow to potentially look at what do you call it, the line of credit. It's basically a line of credit instead of paying interest on maybe 800,000 to $1 million if we need it. You're basically paying on line of credit and paying the interest on the amount that you pull out. But yeah, it's just preliminary meeting, just trying to set the stage in case we actually do get the grants. I need to talk a little bit about El Paso Trail. There's a real possibility that the town has no legal authority to go onto El Paso Trail. I'm still investigating.
Mr. Mayor, what's the El Paso Trail?
It's right back here behind Mount Dewey.
ADT Trail?
No, El Paso Trail Road.
The road.
Road.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a road
Yeah, it's
named
a road.
Trail.
A road.
Gotcha.
Yeah, road's
Okay,
called, sorry.
okay.
It's a road called El Paso Trail.
I know where it is. Thank you.
Anyway, I'll have to go down to El Paso County and pull some records. But if we don't have a legal right of way through there, well, then we kind of have some issues, and especially with the RTA project that was identified on El Paso Trail, because they can't spend any money if we don't have any legal right to it. So more to come, still more investigation needed. I'm going to have to go down and pull some books out of El Paso County and see what the easements that are listed on their property actually say. What else? Under planning, work is continuing on transferring of the projects. We did meet with a couple applicants and they did appreciate the local face-to-face, even though it was not necessarily good news. And the last thing I need to bring up is, because I was acting for the town manager, we desperately need to get one of these and have it be a town phone. And it's maybe not necessarily the way you may think, we need it for. most everything we're getting into now, even our local computers and almost every site we're getting into has two-step authentication. And we are still calling the previous town manager to get codes. We need a town manager phone. Really, that's almost to me, almost the biggest reason is because you don't want to have to be dependent upon someone else, and especially someone who's no longer employed, to be able to get codes to get into the system, because if we can't get the codes, then a lot of times we have to restart. And so, yes, we need phones. If you hang on a minute, I'm sorry, we do have a public comment period. Thank you. But yes, we need that. And that is all I have. We'll move on to, are there any committee reports that we want to go over?
I do have a report in here from Park Rec and Trails Advisory Committee and as well as from the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee. Do I have anyone from PRT who would like to talk that over? Thank you.
Hi, Nancy Dixon, Secretary of Parks, Recs, and Trails Committee. We had another busy year. We are a team of 5, and we have a lot of big projects going on. As you can see, this report has, blue is in completed item, and then we have a lot of things in progress. A lot of people one of our big projects is the pool project, and we finally received the information back from UTAP for the final design. PRT is going to look at that design. We're probably going to have to whittle it down because it has come in at a pretty big price tag. So we'll probably be looking at taking that footprint down a little bit more. As the mayor said, the bear-proof dumpster and, well, not the dumpster's not bear-proof, but the dumpster blind and the roll-off was completed. There's a few things that need to be done on that, like some signage, and also the bear-proof trash cans need to have a permanent location, and they're still on the pallets, so we need to figure that out too. We're going to have another Spring Community Work Day this year and also another Creek Week Community Work Day. We've had good participation in that, so we're going to have those again. I'm just going to skip through some of the big ones. The mayor talked about the composting bathroom. That was one of our tasks also. He went ahead and put in the Fishing for Fun grant. If we don't hear from that, there are other grants that we can possibly look at to get that gazebo bathroom renovated out of, not a composting bathroom anymore, but converted to a vault, and possibly get some water and heat to it also to make it year round, because that would be wonderful too. Our hotel park is another big item. The mayor mentioned about the water is very critical to getting the landscaping done. We have the landscaping site plan done already. It's the water that we need to get there, because we don't want to plant things and then have them all die. So that's another one of our big projects. And another big project, I think it's scroll down, no, I don't know if it's on, which one it is on there, but we got the ADT, the American Discovery Trail, that's going to be rerouted off of UPass Avenue. So that's another one of our big projects going on. And then we're also partnering with UPass Elementary School and Historic Greenmount Falls to do a year-long project of Leave No Trace, so that we can be gold standard site accredited. And that is a big feather in the cap of Green Mountain Falls. That'll help us get other grants too. So we've got a lot going on, and we'll continue to work for what's best for the town. Any questions?
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions from trustees. Go on to fire mitigation.
Thank you. I need to apologize in advance for my public speaking skills. So here goes. Our committee had a good year. Got the Kirkpatrick Family Foundation grant late in 2023, early 2024 for $65,000 so that we could use it to match other for other grants coming in with CUSP. And we had a project planning meeting, getting together with Ute Pass Fire District, Teller County First Responders, CUSP, FMAC, Green Mountain Falls, and the Mile High Youth Corps. We're all there to kind of get everybody on the same page. And in February of 2021, we started with our Team Rubicon program, and they came to do a community event to talk about the project. We had 21 people signed up. That got postponed till August just because of their COVID kind of went through their ranks. So we had 54 participants for Chipper Day, the first one on June 29, and the chief and his gang and our community volunteers went around to homeowners' property chipping on site, and Greenbacks let us have 2 public education hikes with their program, one at the Wallace Reserve and the other at a private residence. There were 20 participants. And then we went Bronca Day and got some more community education, working next to the Green Mountain Falls Fire Department, and collected some donations, did some more community education. And then came the real Team Rubicon cleanup project, where that was a super successful project, and we're looking forward to working with them coming up real soon. We had another Chipper Day in September, or a Chipper Day weekend, and that was thanks to Jesse Stroop and the Green Mountain Falls horse rescue. It was a drop-off, so folks could bring their pickups loaded with slash, and there was over 58, I think, people who 50 loads, and collected some more money for donations for the fire department. So, and then David got an update from Adrian Knight, the CUSP forester. And he said, last year was a pretty slow year. We were able to get 8 acres completed above Thomas Trail before we ran out of workable areas that were not claimed by Mile High Youth Corps. By my observation, Mile High Youth Corps got 2.6 acres completed, but they have different polygons showing different areas. Another grant, the SFA grant that expired at the end of 24, did not have any acres from Green Mountain Falls turned back to the state, so they were all used up. The FRWRM that also has funds for GMF actually does not expire until September of 25, so we have some more time to use those acres. As of now, it looks like we may only have 2.5 acres left to use in Green Mountain Falls before we hit the grant funding amount, but I'm working to see if we can squeeze in a few more acres from somewhere if there are projects in Green Mountain Falls that you want to complete this year. So it's great to have that CUS partnership. So looking at the 2025 work plan coming up, I guess it's next weekend, we have chainsaw training with the Fire Mitigation Committee in partnership with Team Rubicon. So we'll be doing that. On April 28, we have a planned community education event, probably working with insurance companies to get information. People need that. Also probably going to order some, it's fire danger signs, but yard signs to promote our chipper days. So 'cause to get even more people to bring their slash. In June, mid-June, we're planning a fire district appreciation and community education event. And another chipper day, June 28th. At Bronc Days, we'll join them again and do another community event. Hopefully a fire mitigation presentation at the mayor's forum. Banners, we're trying to tell people what we're about and that we're in the community to support their mitigation event efforts. Want to get some fire danger signs and we've put for that in our budget. Then when hopefully August 21st, 26th, we have another planned for Team Rubicon coming back into town and we'll put on a dinner for them to show our appreciation. September 27th to 28th, another chipper day. And then October 27, participate in the tabletop simulation exercise for wildfire response in coordination with local first responders and government agencies. Adrian Knight has asked for some commitment from our town to writing their grant to work in areas like Green Mountain Falls. And so they've asked for the town to write a letter to commit to working with CUS crew over the next 5 to 6 years, depending on the price. It would help out their grant application process. So, yeah. And I believe that's it. Questions that I might not be able to answer, but I try. So,
Thanks, Lisa. Good job.
thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Okay, is that do it for committee reports?
That's all I have for committee reports. Up next, I have Dustin McLean from Public Works.
Hi, Dustin McLean, Public Works. Report for the month of January. For the month of January, we received 16 inches of snow. I think about 3 or 4 storms. We got, with that 16 inches brings the season total of 49 inches of snow for the season. Overall, with all the melt and the freeze, everything's looking pretty good. The roads are in pretty good shape, I have to say. A couple spots here and there getting a little bit of washboards, but overall, I think everything's looking pretty good for the spring coming up. As far as snow plowing operations go, we generally will have both trucks out during any kind of a storm. If there's kind of a long 3-day event, we'll be shifting, doing some split shifts to keep up on the, what do you say, fatigue of being in a plow truck for 16 hours a day. So we'll be doing split shifts for more blizzard type events. And we'll be doing salt sand generally after all the snow has fallen and we've plowed the roads, just to save material. There's no point in putting the salt sand down when you're going to plow it off in another hour, just to save on salt materials and keep the salt out of the roads. As far as parks go, we've been doing biweekly dog station and trash pickup. We did plow out our ice rink. It was kind of short-lived. After this weekend, we're kind of back down to 3 to 6 inches, which is not ideal. Mid-January, we were about average 8 inches in the thickest part, maybe 6 inches in the shallow part. So it's safe enough to get a quad out there, but I don't trust getting a quad out there with 3 inches where we take it out. As far as equipment goes, we got new cutting edges installed on both of our plow trucks. We did take the plow feet off because our roads are frozen. They're not pushing as much dirt as they were earlier in the year. And it gets for a better cut on the snow and the ice over the roads. We did have a leaky hydraulic ram on one of our plows. We did have to fix up and obviously filled it up with hydraulic fluid and flushed everything out. So it's got new hydraulic fluid in one of our plow trucks. We did an oil change and fluid checks on the Nissan Frontier. Did a little bit of work on the Tahoe. It seemed to have a dead battery and a pretty good smell coming. I think we found a mouse in it near the heater core. So we had to tear apart the inside and get the mouse out and kind of deodorize the best we could. We also had a leaky pinion seal on the rear differential of that truck that we did replace, and we haven't had any leaks or any visible leaks yet. So that's good. As far as, I guess that covers kind of all the equipment we've done maintenance on this last month. As far as town hall goes, we've been doing weekly janitorials and trash pickups. And we did get a day of CDL training with El Paso County Public Works. We got to go down to their yard and use their CDL test course and kind of hang out with their tester or their trainer and kind of get some tricks on what to expect for CDL test day. Kelly's got a couple days to meet his 40 hours. And I think he's got to take another 2-week class to be able to take his test and get his CDL proper. So that's about all I have. Any questions?
Yeah, do we have the ice unsafe signs back up?
Yeah, I took the skating signs down
Okay.
and put the no ice signs up. So
Okay.
should be good there.
Good. Trustees?
Anything else?
Thanks.
Cool. Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you. Up next, I have Marshall Goings.
For the marshal's office, we had 28 calls for service, although it's a little bit misleading because 9 of those were follow-ups from the hit and run case, which is still open, which I can't comment on, but we did a bunch of follow-up on that one. Otherwise, we had a fairly slow month. We assisted 2 agencies with calls for service. 2 agencies assisted us with calls for service. All reporting is complete, and our reserve officer that's left worked 7 hours. Questions?
Not seeing any.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Patterson, welcome.
All right, up next is me. Ongoing activities, not much there. The big news is 55 now out of our 60 STRs have been renewed. I really wanted to get that done in January this year. The last few years it's been March, and we've been in it. So nothing is in my court. The ones that are out just have not applied for renewal. money is moved to Kahlo Trust. There's a statement, subsequent pages. I've got some volunteers to help with records archiving. I'm very excited about that. And I've reached out to town legal to get to work on the election. So the last election was a big success, and a lot of that was the head start and having lots of time with it. So I'm gonna do that again. Thank you, Mayor Dixon, for all your help in the absence of a town manager. I can't thank you enough,
Welcome.
seriously. So very hard worker, totally impressed. And welcome, Caleb.
Thank you.
Yep, looking forward to piling more onto you.
Let's do it, man.
Yep. That started yesterday and it felt pretty good to me, so. So here's Kahlo Trust. And we moved some money. The January statement came out after I did all this, and something to note is our average monthly yield is down to 4.5175%. Before that, I had been, talking to you that it was solidly over 5%. So that's floated down just a little bit, something to watch, but it's still much better than our like 0.1% that we were pulling from our money market and Park State Bank. So I'm not ready to move it all back in there quite yet, but I am keeping an eye on it. So that's all I have.
Okay, trustees, any questions? Okay, thanks, Bo.
Yep. And next I have Town Manager Caleb Patterson.
Right. Well, thank you, board, for having me here. So some observations I've already made here within the first 2 days. Let me know if I need to get closer or farther away from the mic. So from what I've heard, we've had, a bunch of meetings. If we could, my ask is that we keep it to once a month as I get adjusted here. I'm going to ask from you guys, which we will go over. And if we need to have workshops before the Board of Trustees meetings, maybe at 6 o'clock to discuss some of this. That way I'm not taking too much advantage of your guys' times. I understand that you're all busy. You all have a life outside of this. So I'm gonna, really respect your guys' time moving forward. The other one is I went ahead and looked at the chart of accounts. And I think I know why we're having, a little bit difficulty here on this end. I think we have too many accounts open. So I'm going to be looking with the employees here, and our finance head and our auditor, and we're going to be seeing, what we need and what we don't need, and then coming back to you on that. I think why it's so hard to get something out to you is it's just because we have too much. For a budget of about 800,000 or so, I have 5 pages full of accounts. That's a lot. So let me do some research on that. Might be speaking too soon. If I am, I apologize. But let me look into that. I'll let you know what happens with that. And I'm not going to give you any time frame with that as of yet. And then my second day, I got like a list of like 100 things I saw I got to get on top of. So, all right. So on your desks, I have a 11 by 17 paper, nice and colorful. Promise not to use too much colored ink moving forward. Okay, so these are going to be your goals you're going to give to me. I think I've always found this the best. I've tried giving my goals to the board, and boards giving their goals to me. I prefer you guys sitting down and talking, going over what you'd like to see. And again, this is where that workshop will come into place, to where we meet before a Board of Trustees meeting and just to start to discuss some of these some goals you might have for me for this year. So you guys will come to me, come up with a few different goals. On the top we have, and if you noticed, I got these from your guys' retreat that you had before. One was public safety, that's in the blue. The number 2 goal was, I put transparent, effective governance. The other one was excellence in quality services. Some of this I left in already, but other things were taken from your guys' retreat, right? So if you look in the blue, public safety, streets and sidewalk infrastructure, roads, parks and trails, and then as well as open spaces. So within this next month, if you can, sit down amongst yourselves, not together, but separately. come up with some things that you'd like to see me get done this year. That way we can meet again next month. We'll talk about what you want, what staff wants, what department heads want, what I want, right? I'll get all that together. And we'll start talking about what's realistic, what's not, and then timeframes. The second sheet is your timeframe sheet. That is the other colored sheet. So once you guys get that into me, we'll start talking about timeframes. Reporting formats. I know all reports aren't, are a little hard to get on the same format, but I'd like to just try to normalize our reporting format. I have something here. I've started. I'll be talking with department heads and seeing exactly what works for them. So expect a little bit more formal. Or expect something that's a little bit more formal that we can adopt. But for now, that's it. Did I miss anything?
Question. Do you want the input prior to a work session to you?
Yeah, let's, I'll be reaching out to you, Todd. And I think we can have it maybe at 5:30, 6 o'clock before the next board meeting. I'll make sure to reach out to you and see what works for you all.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
And adding to that, is it useful if we set ourselves a 2-week deadline to get these back to Manager Patterson or less? I mean,
I would think if we get it to them at least a week ahead of the next board meeting, would that be sufficient time to tabulate and quote and
Yeah, I don't, well, we're not going to put it on the board meeting. It could be on a workshop. So as far as meeting deadlines, it's going to be up to you guys. I think a week at the latest would be great. I also wanted to add for your board meetings, in return of just keeping them, to 1 month. I'm going to start encouraging staff to get all their reports in a week before your meetings. That way you have the materials a week before. You have plenty of time to look over the agenda. So that's what I wanted to add as well.
okay. Yeah, so sounds like a week minimum.
Can we set up a meeting now, a work session?
It'd
to discuss those?
be a work session prior to our next board meeting in March.
Oh, you mean immediately before? No, I would like to meet the next week or so. We already know. We just need to get it formalized and communicate it to the TM.
Board members, thoughts? Would it be during the evening?
Whenever you're available.
If you guys are ready, we could add it to the discussion items tonight. I don't know if that's way too soon. But if we've already done this, yeah, too soon, okay.
I would like some time to look it over personally.
so a work session in 2 weeks, because that's our normal sequence is every 2 weeks.
That would put it on the 18th. Just have a work session instead of a board meeting.
Is that
And that gives
a Team Rubicon Day, Sawyer training, the 18th?
on a Tuesday.
Okay, I'm good.
So
Well, sorry for interrupting. It's going to take me some time to get with the employees. So, I mean, if we want to have this, maybe, and I apologize, it's up to you guys. I'll roll with the flow. But if you guys want to have that, maybe an hour and a half before the next board meeting. So, and then just rolling right into the board meeting afterwards, that would work.
yeah, what we're kind of thinking of is having it, instead of having a board meeting on the 18th, we'd have just a work session.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
And then we'd have it prepped and hopefully
Yeah,
ready
and
to be.
that's fine with me.
Okay. 6:30.
Yeah.
So Caleb, thank you for getting this worksheet organized. Many of us have already talked about, the need for getting the goals set. And, there's a feeling that at least the 25 calendar year is going to move very quickly. And especially for you being new. But I think this would be a great time for us to, in 2 weeks, to start setting those goals and priorities. Because again, I think the year is going to go very quickly for all of us. All right. Thank you.
Okay, does that conclude the staff reports?
It does.
Okay, our next item is our first public comment session. Is there anyone that would like to do a public comment in the audience? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's why I was looking right at you, so. Make sure you just turn the blue light on the microphone so folks in
Yeah,
Zoom
it's
can
on.
hear you.
So Margaret Peterson, 10795 Belvedere, and I just want to reiterate the importance of two-factor authentication and what Todd had brought up, because I have a number of entities that I have to have that for with my job. And basically, it's when you set it up. And a lot of them, you got to give your phone number, you've got to do things. And I really feel that you guys should move toward really keeping it secure and keeping it so that it's something that's not portable, something that's with the town. And I just want to back up what Todd was bringing up about that. And also El Paso Trail, when I was little in the late 60s, I watched that road get built. So
Who built it?
it was Redwoods. Redwoods. So
Could we talk more about that soon?
yeah.
Thank
yeah.
you.
But I mean, seriously, I sat in our yard and watched him on the side of the hill with his grader cut the road. So and one other thing I want to say about that is a while ago when I was on council, I know that I was advocating for Donna Everly, who has her home at the end of that road. And the special needs children that she has and the transportation that she has to do, and how horrible that road was because there were so many potholes there. And I remember being told before that it's like, oh, town can't do it because it's not town property. They would not maintain that road and fill in the potholes. So
Yeah, I can't find where
it's a medical issue. And I know, I mean, she lives at the end of that road and she has medically fragile children that need transportation without having to have whatever go over all the potholes.
Thanks for that
So-
background. I can't find where it was ever dedicated from like a subdivision or something. So I've been working on that, and even the timeline would help me a lot to zero that in
Sure.
a little bit.
Sure.
So thank you.
Okay, do we have others in the audience that would like to do public comment? If not, we'll go to Zoom land. Is there anyone in Zoom that would like to make public comment?
Hi, this is Ann. Ann
Go ahead.
Esch. Well, I just thought I'd mention that I attended my first water quality management committee meeting of the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. And I found it very interesting. I wasn't able to go personally, but I listened in and I introduced myself from Green Mountain Falls and explained that even though they're all managing sewer systems, we don't have one. And I just brought up the fact that our town, we have this worry about, or at least I do, some people do, about Regulation 43 that may do away with cesspools. And I was very shocked, you know how things get compartmentalized. But one young man spoke up and he said, what's Regulation 43? They had no idea. So, I just thought I'd let you know I'm listening in and I hope to learn something. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone else on Zoom that would like to speak?
I'm not seeing anything else from Zoom.
Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and move into our business items. Our first item is number 6A, Resolution 2025-02, appointing town officials. And this is a resolution of the town of Green Mountain Falls making appointment of town clerk, marshal, and town attorney, whereas Colorado Revised Statutes 31-10-304 requires town board of trustees to appoint a clerk, treasurer, and attorney, as well as any other officers it deems necessary. And whereas this statute further specifies the appointment of officers shall not exceed more than 30 days after the election end, whereas the Town of Green Mountain Falls Municipal Code also provides the authority of the Board of Trustees to appoint officers. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Town of Green Mountain Falls, Colorado, that town officials are appointed as follows. The town attorney is the firm of Hoffman, Parker, Wilson, and Carberry, PC. Town clerk and treasurer is Boa Yod, and town marshal is Sean Goings. Introduced, read, and passed, hopefully, this fourth day of February. I would need a motion and a second if you're so
A
inclined.
question, Mr. Mayor. Is there a term that's stated in the resolution for this appointment? For these appointments?
I
This,
believe it-
this
yeah.
should be done at the first annual meeting, the first meeting of each year. And we punted it in January. We just weren't ready. So I'm technically late here putting this in front of you.
Understand that. Should there be a termination date on the appointment stated in the resolution?
I think it's just next year if you don't reappoint any of those individuals. But we could sure add
Or it
that.
could be in perpetuity too.
Well, this is in our code. That's where this comes from.
It is in the code and it's required
So I
by
believe,
statute. It's also required within 30 days of any election. So if you guys remember, right, I think the first board meeting you sat at, you were appointed April 16th after the April 2nd election, and we had to do this then. So, it may come up more than once a year if it's an election year.
Okay.
So the new board has a say, basically.
So I understand it's implied in any code, right? So I'm just asking the question is like, would it, because I read it and I said, well, how long is that appointment good for? And so I'm just asking questions. Would it be clearer if there was, a termination date in the appointment declaration?
Yeah, I think if board, if you guys would like to discuss that and can give us some direction, whether or not you want us to put for the year of, we could put some language in there that says for the year of 2025 if you'd like, but if not, we can keep it as is. So staff's gonna leave that up for you guys to give us some direction on.
My personal opinion, it's a requirement in our code to redo it every year. Right?
And the language is done. In your language, you guys want that in there or not?
Well, if it's a requirement in the code, right?
The language on saying exactly whether or not it's in perpetuity. So he's saying it's a language to do it every single year, not necessarily saying this is only for the year 25 or in perpetuity. I think it's implied what he's saying that is only for the year. But what I'm asking is, would you like that language, Don, in there? And if that's the case, I'd like for the trustees to give us direction on that.
I don't feel like it adds, but it doesn't subtract. So, we could include it, but the code is already stipulating that we're going to repeat this operation at the first meeting of each year. So again, I don't think it's that particularly additive, but it doesn't subtract. I mean, there's.
All I know is that, the contracts, that I am accustomed with always have a start date and end dates. And then there's no ambiguity or a question like was in my mind. So thank you.
So guess I'm not hearing solid direction to include. We had one, couple of us are kind of, we don't think we need it.
He thinks it needs to be in there. It works for me.
I might have something to add. I think it's section 2-65 of our municipal code. The board with a majority vote can basically unappoint anyone who is appointed. You can terminate any appointed position at any time. So I don't know if that helps, but.
I wasn't suggesting that something nefarious would go on, but I'm just saying I'm used to having that information. And maybe it should be in the resolution, but I'm not going to press the issue.
Well, with that, then I'll go ahead and move we approve resolution 2025-02. Do we have a second?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. We go ahead and approve resolution 2025-02. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. But that is. Okay, moving on, our next item is resolution 2025-03, and this is a resolution of the town of Green Mountain Falls designating the official public notice posting place. Oh, I don't really feel like reading all the whereases, so I'm just going to say the whereases are printed on the resolution. It says, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the town of Green Mountain Falls, Colorado, that the town website, www.gmfco, is to be the official posting place for all meeting notices. When possible, the post office and town hall may be used in addition. In the event of technological difficulties, official posting place shall be at town hall. Any questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor, I had a question on the language used here when it says, when possible, the post office and town hall may be used. But in the event of a technical difficulty, the town hall will be designated.
Correct. We have had situations where we've had whatever, the website goes down or something like that. And so the official posting place then becomes town hall.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2025-03?
Yes, I so moved to approve resolution number 25 or 2025-203.
I have a second.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve resolution number 2025-03. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Yeah, that one carries. Our next item up is 6C, request for board of trustee action for the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee and CUSP. Do we have someone that would like to brief this one?
I do have Lisa Huizinga from Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee, eager to speak on this issue.
So the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee unanimously recommends the Green Mountain Falls Board of Trustees approve submission of a letter to CUSP in the form as proposed with this memo and requested by CUSP as described in the background section below. Furthermore, the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee recommends earmarking and restricting the Kirkpatrick Family Fund grant awarded in late 2023 for the purposes of matching grants to perform fire fuel mitigation to apply to this grant in order to participate in this work. A background, Adrian Knight, forester for CUSP, is writing a grant for a hand crew to work in areas like Green Mountain Falls. Adrian has invited Green Mountain Falls to participate and benefit from this grant. Adrian asked if the town of Green Mountain Falls is comfortable with writing a commitment letter stating that it would commit to working with CUSP crews over the next 5 to 6 years, depending on price. It would go a long way in their grant application. It can be left vague, just stating that Green Mountain Falls would support working with the hand crew if the price was right. The discussion, CUSP has proven to be an excellent fire fuels mitigation and healthy forest partner over the last few years in our town. Green Mountain Falls has significantly benefited in reduction of fire fuels on both public and private land in our communities because of CUS's work in obtaining state and federal grants on behalf of Green Mountain Falls. This will assure continuation of the relationship between CUSP and Green Mountain Falls to reduce fire fuels and improve forest health. So we have a sample letter that we'd like for recommending that the town give to Mr. Knight. Dear Mr. Knight, the Board of Trustees, Town Manager, and Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee of Green Mountain Falls are pleased to inform you of its interest in contributing matching funds to the CUSP grant application. Green Mountain Falls has been actively remediating both private and public acreage over the last 7 years, with well over 70 acres worked to date. The town's commitment to funding is contingent on the cost of contracting the crews necessary to perform the work, and it also is subject to annual budget approval by the Board of Trustees. Oh. There you have it.
Thank you.
Okay, Manager Patterson, are you agreeable with the language in the letter?
Yes, I don't see any problem with it.
Okay. And I'm also agreeable with the language in the letter that has my signature on it. Trustees, any discussion?
So, many thanks to the Fire Mitigation Committee for organizing the recommendation letter as well as the 2 example letters. Just a little bit of context, and partly for Manager Patterson, so he understands context. CUSP, Coalition for Upper South Platte, is an organization that's a watershed protection organization. It's a nonprofit that began in 1998 after the 96 fire in the Wolf. No, it was before they came in. The Buffalo Creek fire. So, and that watershed is it's primarily for Denver's use. And so the organization's been around for 25, plus years. Most recently, CUSP has been a grant broker. They've sought crews and bidded out the crews to perform the work for the grants that they were brokering. Because of the CWDG grant, that's the Community Development or Community Wildfire Development Program, which is a federal program. They've got a grant that's going to be a 5-year grant, and I just want to read something just real briefly on this in terms of its description. So it's a bipartisan infrastructure law that authorized $1 billion over 5 years, which was going to prioritize, at-risk communities. As of Friday, those funds are frozen. That's, they'll probably be unfrozen in a bit. Because of the scale and the duration of this grant, CUSP is now wanting to organize and develop the capacity that they haven't had here recently. So they want to have hand crews. Then they want to have some assurance that those hand crews will have work. Because CUSP is wanting to protect all of their watershed, which is, I forget how many million acres, it's huge. They're the ones that are going to author the grant, and Green Mountain Falls will be one of many communities which benefits. But what we've learned from federal grants is that the reporting requirements are outrageous, right? And they can be extremely tenuous. So having CUSP both, be seeking the grant and do the reporting is huge for us. So I think there's huge return in using them to do this. And plus it gives them the control over their entire watershed. So I've had conversations with Adrian as well. And so we almost have no obligation. So the matrix, the rubric for deciding who's going to receive the grant, has a number of features that deal with, as it as it said, for at-risk communities and what that means. He's going to get that information from the Forestry Action Plan, from the Forestry Atlas. So there should be very little burden on us in terms of filling out that grant. And so it's just a matter of whether the watershed qualifies, because they want to do it, for the entire area, and whether those program funds are going to continue to be available. But that gives context to why we would be authorizing this, our priority for utilizing their hand crews, versus us contracting it out, which I think is sort of odd anyway. So that gives you the big picture of why the Fire Mitigation Committee is asking us to approve these two letters, because of the benefit that we'll receive. All right. Yes, absolutely.
Trustees, any further discussion? Okay, I'm actually going to move that we approve the FMAC recommendation to submit the support letters to CUSP, both of them.
What's the other letter? I see the one.
One's for the town manager, one's for myself.
Where's? Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
And I second. Yeah.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve sending the support letters to CUSP. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Our next item is ordinance 2025-01, and that's the zoning map. And we'd actually be closing the hearing and hang on a minute. Go ahead.
Do we have the committee and commission appointment procedure ahead of that, 6D?
Sorry about that. That's my error. Got ahead. Okay, this was presented at our last regular meeting, I believe, and there were comments that were submitted. And I believe this now incorporates all the comments on what's shown on the screen. So with that, are there further comments or questions? And if not, I'd entertain a motion to approve, and this will go into our procedure book.
I'll move with that. We approve that committee procedure.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the committee member, commission member appointment procedure. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Now we're moving on to the zoning map.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
where will this document land?
in our procedure book in here.
Awesome.
We have like one procedure in it.
Okay, that's
This will be
great.
the second one.
It's a start.
Yeah, two of them.
I will distribute it to committee chairs as well and
Okay.
just make sure it's on everybody's radar. So.
Okay, so for the zoning, I need to close the public hearing. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we should see if there's any additional public comments, close the
Okay.
public hearing, and then we'll be ready for a motion
Okay.
when the board's ready.
Okay, can we post the map up? Because we did find 3 errors on it. And the errors were such that we'd actually inadvertently changed something from previous. And so we basically put it back the way it was, so we weren't changing someone's zoning. The 3 areas, if I can get, okay, so, and I don't have my laser pointer, both circling something down in R2 that was originally a business, and so that needed to be mixed. And then the post office, pardon me. Yeah, that triangle is outside of town limits. So we have a little triangle with a couple properties in there that are not within town limits. Not part of the town. And So yeah, that's interesting. Another change was where the post office was at on the original map, that was shown as business and it inadvertently got put in, I think, as residential. And so we figured out a way to edit the PDF, fix those. And this is the version now that we would be posting on the website. So is there any further discussion or comment from the public?
I'm not seeing anything from Zoom.
Okay. Since there is no additional public comment, I will close the hearing on our zoning map, and now we are free to approve or disapprove or go forward, whichever direction. And that would be ordinance 2025-01. Again, an ordinance revising town's official zoning map by rezoning certain areas in the town in accordance with the town's recently adopted land use code. I'm going to skip the whereases again. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Trustees of the Town of Green Mountain Falls, Colorado. Section 1, findings upon consideration of the proposed rezoning and supporting documentation, hearing the statements of town staff, the public, and planning commission, and giving due consideration to the matter, the Board of Trustees finds and determines that the proposed rezoning meets the criteria set forth in section 12-55A of the Land Use Code. The rezoning is hereby approved, and the official zoning map shall be updated as attached hereto in Exhibit A. Repeal any and all existing ordinances or parts of ordinances of the town of Green Mountain Falls covering the same matters as embraced by this ordinance are hereby repealed, and all ordinances or parts of ordinance inconsistent with the provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed, provided, however, that such repeal shall not affect or prevent the prosecution or punishment of any person for any act done or committed in violation of any ordinance hereby repealed prior to the taking effect of this ordinance. Section 4, severability of any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase of this ordinance is for any reason held to be invalid or unconstitutional. Such decision shall not affect the validity or constitutionality of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Town of Green Mountain Falls hereby declares it would have adopted this ordinance and each section, subsection, clause, or phrase thereof, irrespective of the fact that any of the one or more sections, subsection, sentences, clauses, or phrases thereof be declared invalid or unconstitutional. Effective date, this ordinance shall take effect 30 days after the passage, adoption, and publication thereof as provided by law, and publication in section 6. This ordinance shall be published by title only. Do we have any further discussion? And if not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the ordinance. And I just want to say that if folks do continue to find items, let us know. We can always redo an ordinance and fix it.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that we approve the zoning map. The zoning map resolution.
Do I have a second? Okay. It's been moved to second to approve ordinance 2025-01 for the new zoning map. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Our next item is kind of a grants update, and I asked to put this in. And Bo got it rotated. Trustees, you found a couple items, prints on your desk. They're, what happened last week about Tuesday, I learned that there were two things that were due Friday. And one of them was this Fishing is Fun grant application that we could potentially use for the restrooms down at the gazebo. I did as best I could, got as many estimates as I could. And it came up to, when you take into account 20% contingency, the total amount came up to $93,452. And the town's portion is basically $9,971. Of that would potentially be Public Works actually digging out back behind it. And we would likely we either have to lift the building up or we knock down a center block wall to get the old system out and then put in basically a vault toilet. But when you put in a vault toilet, now you got to have water. If you got to have water, now you got to have heat. I'm estimating we'd probably have to, there's a meter down on the pole by the lake. It wouldn't surprise me if we would have to get 200 amp service run to the box after that meter to support everything, because you're talking about a water heater and able to heat 2 bathrooms. So I went ahead and applied for it without board approval. And this is something that if the board does not concur with, I can always just send an email and withdraw. And so, since I was up against the deadline of last Friday, and that was before the board meeting, I just went ahead and applied. So the question is, board, do you want to continue with this application? The cash estimate for us would probably be in the neighborhood of $13,000. Again, this is all factored in with about a 20% contingency. And I did estimate the electrical at 7,500, and that was just basically we got an estimate for the plumbing of 7,500, so I just duplicated it. Okay, so it's so the amount we'd be asking for fishing is fun is 70,000. And so we would have the 9,000 worth of Public Works work. And I basically used what we did for FEMA and added all that up and put that in as our in-kind. So that would be our in-kind type contribution. And then possibly up to 13,000 in cash. And again, it was a deadline on Friday, so I just went ahead and got the estimates quick as I could and applied for it. It has gone in, they have got it, but it's nothing to send an email to the guy and say withdraw if the board doesn't concur.
Mr. Mayor, if the grant is granted as written, how bound are we to the estimated project costs?
Well, we would be bound by what we submitted in the grant, which is obviously we're asking for 70,000. If that goes down, or assuming it goes down, or well, that's why
I think it's a little light, and that's why I'm asking. If we end up finding out it's going to cost more than what we want, are they concerned about us exceeding this budget anyway?
I wouldn't think it'd be any different than any other grant that we get, because every grant we get is the same thing. It may go up, it may go down. Some of them are reimbursable, and I can't remember off the top of my head if this is a reimbursable or not. I apologize for that. I don't have that bit
That's
of
okay.
information.
And then there's the process itself. Can we still, talk among ourselves? I know Mr. Manager Patterson has construction experience as well. So can we talk about the process if that's granted?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I say, the deadline was Friday, and I threw together the best I could.
Okay.
If it turns out to be higher or lower, I imagine we'd go back and say, hey, so-and-so, I got the guy's name. Here's something came up, didn't know if it was going to impact us or not. We're having an additional cost. Usually what we do is, I think in the past, we went in and see if we can get extra funding. If it's higher. We do ask a lot of times if we can get extra funding. A lot of times the answer comes back no. And then we have to either scale back the project or try to fix it.
Well, this would definitely be a good start.
So, So anyway, yeah, but the big question for the board is, okay, do you want me to pull it back since I did it without board approval?
No.
Yes, I'd say, thank you, Mayor, because this was already on our timeline. So Parks, Recs and Trails were already working on looking at alternatives and solutions for this, for replacing this bathroom. Where was that funding coming from?
Which,
Well, they were looking at alternatives.
okay, there's a couple different options. I mean, this one, I just happened to look up at the board, you know, where Becky had left some notes on the board. And I saw this and I thought, oh, what is it? And I opened it up on Tuesday and that's when I found out it was due Friday. And so there's other funding opportunities available if we don't get this. There's a revitalizing Main Street. And I think I've shown that if you scroll on over. The backup for Gazebo Lake restroom is that yellow, revitalizing Main Street. That one, they have that one that occurs periodically. And so the next due date is in February, but I think there's another due date in April, I think. I think it's 6 times a year they have this one's opened up.
Yeah, there's a few application dates throughout the year. That's through CDOT, the RMS grant. That's actually pretty easy to get. And they kind of give you open use for that grant. You can really spend that money on everything. You can use it once per year up to 10 years. So it's definitely something, if you guys are going to look as a funding source, probably one of your more strongest options.
Thank you, Mayor, for meeting the deadline and getting this in. And since this was already, on the agenda for the revitalization of that bathroom. So I'd like to move that we accept the work that you did and move forward with the application process
Okay.
for the Fishing is Fun grant.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we continue with the Fishing is Fun grant. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Okay, number 2 of the fire drills last week. FEMA has funds under what they call hazard mitigation. And when we had the disaster and we actually got the FEMA funds, originally we were going to try to go for I think somewhere in the $300,000 range to try to help us do ditches and culverts. We did not get that funding. And it's probably a good thing because the match on that is scroll over to the FEMA one, the HMGP, if you would, please. Yeah. The match is 25%. And with the fact that we're kind of eyeballing a grader, I kind of made a decision that I didn't think it would be wise to try to go after $300,000 worth of additional funding in case we get it. Now we got to come up with a match for $300,000, and that's not eligible for the local match out of the state because it's not IIJA funds. So that would have been a pretty hefty bill. So instead, I actually submitted, and there was a thing called a notice of interest that was due Friday. So if you're interested in this stuff, you had to get the notice in. So I went ahead and did an AI search for developing a hazard mitigation plan of our own. And that's what I initially submitted. And it's sent in. The state called me back. And because we are actually part of the Pikes Peak Regional Office of Emergency Management's plan, and they have received FEMA funds already to update their plan, we are not eligible to do a hazard mitigation plan. We are, however, eligible to do a stormwater master plan. And there's a couple things on this list that deal with the stormwater master plan. And when you're dealing with the grants, it's nice to, if you can have a plan that's been approved, and then if you get the engineering, then you're truly shovel ready. And that seems to flow best with what the grants we're typically applying for now. So we changed it over to what's called, I believe, They called me on the phone. I thought they said BRIC for a stormwater master plan. And I did the AI search thing for how much would a master plan cost in Colorado, and it came up with $60,000 to $100,000. And so I said 60,000, which would mean our cut on that, if we were actually get it, is 15 to help develop the stormwater plan. In addition to the stormwater plan, there is one that closes Friday, this coming Friday. And that is, it's basically water. The Water Now is the entity, and it's called Project Accelerator, and it's up to 250 hours worth of labor, no match. And so there's a couple options here. We're trying to actually develop stormwater master plans. In other words, how are we going to deal with stormwater, how we might mitigate them, how we might mitigate the effects. It gets into things that we could possibly be looking at as far as early warning systems, because I'm sure everyone's aware, a year or two ago, we almost lost a couple young children to a flash flood. It gets into those things. So we haven't applied for this Project Accelerator through Water Now yet. It's due Friday if we do. The application is not horrible, but it's only for 250 hours worth of labor. The FEMA money does have a price tag with it. And so again, the FEMA one is the one I put the notice of interest in for. That would be the one where I'd be asking the board, do you want to continue?
When will you receive notice regarding the FEMA notice?
Okay, so this is not an application for the grant. It was just a notice of interest.
Right. And how do they respond? to
They
the
called
notice?
me.
Okay.
They basically called me and said, we can't apply for HM, a hazard mitigation plan, because we're already part of PPR OEMs. And they got FEMA funding. So we swapped it over to, at least I think we swapped it over to a BRIC for stormwater.
A related question. I remember, to the best of my recollection, 2 years ago when we employed our city town engineer to create a water hazard map of the town. Do you remember?
Don't remember that. I don't remember seeing a water hazard map. I know FEMA's got a flood map, but I don't remember a
Yeah,
water
well,
hazard map.
Dusty, you remember because we talked about it. It was a time when the TM was gone on vacation, and you and Kelly were going to meet with the manager and talk about the plan, the master plan. I don't know his name.
We had a
I
roads,
believe-
we had,
Yeah, yeah. Right. So, but he was engaged in developing a plan for the town.
But as far as culverts, there's no list of culverts in the plans in his drawings or any engineered drawings. There's nowhere where there should be a culvert. There's no mention of a culvert at all in any of these, from what I remember in any of these drawings.
Did you see it? Did you see?
Didn't copy.
Okay. Well, maybe it's something that we could,
Well,
be
he's-
useful.
okay, he's got a digital copy of the roads master plan, but that's not a stormwater
It's drainage.
master.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it would.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm not sure if that would be exactly what we would be looking for as far as a comprehensive drainage plan. It's more of a comprehensive road, a map of ideal road grades and situations.
Okay.
Where you would want to ditch, where you wouldn't want to ditch, your ideal cross slope or crown on any particular part of a road. That's mostly what that plan outlines.
All right. Well, I was reaching, I granted, I was reaching, but so if there's something about elevations and crowns,
It's,
But there's nothing about ditches and culverts.
he does have he did outline where, V ditches would be used. Although when you get out there and look at our roads and see where he wants a V ditch, it's really contradictory to our road situation. It looks a little bit better on paper than it does when you go out there and look at boots on the ground, where he's saying you should put this ditch in, with the width of the road and common sense of, simple road drainage practices.
Okay. Well, look, if we can resurrect that, we ought to get our new TM to
It's-
review it and see if
it's-
it'd be useful to us in any way.
It's definitely worth a look for
Since
sure.
we paid for it,
Yeah.
maybe we should try to use it.
I'd love that. Thank you.
Yep, for sure.
Thanks, Desi.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah. Board, any other questions?
Just a question of clarification. So if we're awarded hours, labor hours, are they paying for our public works to do the work? Is that how that,
No, this is just to develop a plan. So in other words, it'd be
okay, so it's the value of 200 hours that we,
250 hours worth of labor
That-
for developing a plan,
right?
whatever
So
that
we would get
equates
that
to.
cash to apply towards,
We would get 200,
or they would provide the labor.
I
hours.
think they provide the
They pro-
labor.
Okay, they've
is
got
the
the
way that-
capacity to provide
yeah.
those labor hours.
And
That's
it
what-
might be, it's probably something where like, we're getting a company called HR right now is helping us write the grant for the bridge. It's probably something like that,
Okay.
where we get so many hours worth of time to help write a plan. Yeah, the one I had the most concerned with was the HMGP because of the price tag that was associated with it.
So Mayor, what's your recommendation to the board?
It doesn't hurt to apply. A lot of these things are, the success of application is, I think we were told, sometimes between 25 and 50%. We have reserves to handle the 15,000 if we need to. But, yeah, I don't see any hurt in applying. Now, granted, the HMGP or the brick for the stormwater, the FEMA money hasn't been actually been applied for yet. That's it was just a notice of interest. And I think they use that as their initial filters. And so, if it is under brick funding, we'd have to find out, okay, when's the deadlines for the brick funding application and whatnot, and try to get that in there. So, yeah, I tend to be maybe a little bit, personally, I tend to be a little bit more aggressive than maybe a lot of people would be in going after grant money, but yeah, we can always withdraw.
So for clarity, you're looking for a motion for us to
Yeah,
authorize.
similar
moving-
to the last one. Do you want to continue with the notice of interest? With the FEMA money?
All right, I'd like to, I'm going to move that we continue
Okay,
with the notice of interest, with any obligation coming back to the board for further clarity and approval.
yeah, like I said, since the state called me and is switching it from HMGP to BRIC, whatever that stands for. Yeah, there's questions I still have, but it was just a notice of interest right at this point.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We can continue with the pursuit of FEMA funds to help develop a stormwater master plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So the next one I want to try to go over is, what is the next one? I don't think we need to do that. I think the rural and tribal assistance. Okay, this would be a backup for the engineering on the bridge. It's highly competitive. We've applied for funds in this in the past. We did not get it. The amount we'd be asking for, it's a zero match, which is why it's highly competitive. And it's one of those where there's like a time where you got to have everything ready to submit, and it's like on opening. So the March 4th at, I think, 2 p.m. Eastern, you want to hit send because it's like a first come, first serve. And so, yeah, it's something that would be a backup for our bridge. And I would recommend that we go ahead and try to get everything ready and go ahead and apply for that one as well.
It's a backup. Yeah. Becomes the primary if you get it, is that?
It's that old answer of it depends. If we get the actual Protect grant, which is the one with the Loma totals the 8 million, then obviously we'd want to try to go with that because we have an opportunity for that costing us almost nothing to get a new bridge. But again, we may not get the Protect grant. So if we don't get the Protect grant, if we got this to fall back on, then we could at least get the engineering done. And that would enable, if we can get the engineering done, then that would enable us to then say, we are shovel ready, go apply for more, for additional funds. Go ahead, Senator Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would even encourage, if you guys do get both grants, to keep both grants. If you get the rural on travel assistance, use that for engineering, right? That's roughly going to be our engineering cost to 750 grand. And if you get the Protect grant, let's just say our estimates are off through engineering, right? Baseline, let's just say they're 10% off, and that throws us off our requested amount. Asking for more funds is nearly impossible. So that's $750,000 in engineering that could have went to the Protect grant. That in make-believe land, if we get that grant, the rural and travel assistance grant, that 750 could go to the engineering on that. And then if we go over our construction allowance, that 750 that would be used for that could be moved over. So that would be my recommendation. But
I'm not sure we can do that because federal funds usually don't like it when you use federal funds from something else. And so, yeah, it's kind of, to me, it's kind of one of those, if we get one, especially the Protect grant, we go for that. If we get the rural tribal assistance and we don't get Protect, then we use the rural tribal assistance. I don't have a lot of confidence that we would get the rural and tribal assistance just because of how competitive it really is. But to me, it's worth applying for just to have a backup.
I like the idea of having a backup for the bridge grants. So I would be in favor of it.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
I'll make it a motion.
Then I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we apply for the rural and tribal assistance grant that coming due opens on March 4th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
So Mayor, often we talk about resources with respect to dollars. But of course, the other resource is just the managerial time, filling all these grants out, et cetera. Between you and Caleb, is this becoming onerous? I mean, this.
What became onerous on this one is the fact that Tuesday was when I basically became aware of these few things that were due on Friday. And there was a lot of long hours. The Loma application for the 1.33 million, because of the way the state sets their system up, the person in the state was able to pull the application, pull the cost estimate that went up with it. But the system wouldn't allow her to actually accept the application, quote unquote. So late last night, she got with me and said, hey, do your own account. I did my own account late last night. Got up early this morning. They approved it early this morning. I went ahead and cut and paste everything that we had done on the previous application into this new application, and they were able to go in and accept it. We run into, this isn't the first time we've run into trouble with, the fact that we try to maintain the same email address like our manager, and then you get different names. They couldn't use Caleb because he's still tagged with Westcliff. And so it's, okay, so there are things like that that continually just come up, and you just have to jump through the hoop. So yeah, the latest one was the Loma between last night and this morning. But these two that we talked about earlier, I became aware on like say Tuesday, and I tried to get him in by Friday. That was the real owner's part. Once we get them, it moves into more of a grant management and grant reporting type hours. And those are probably going to be just as high as, if not more than the applications. So yeah, there is a point where we, we'll have to look at Manager Patterson, and he's probably going to give me a sign he's in over up to second grants, and we may have to dial it back a little bit.
So, Mr. Mayor, I really like your concept that you laid out here with the sideways grant tracker. But up here, it's good on me. I'm sideways. But so, in that great concept you delivered for us in helping us understand and keep track, can we expand that and then actually have a column for grant management and grant expenses? Because like John and I, Trustee Bell and I have already talked about having that part in our accounting process, but we're halfway there right now. And it would be a worksheet process anyway. But it would be, oh yeah, I remember we got 60 grand in potential liability if that grant is granted. So-
Exactly. That's something that, if we get these, it'd be nice to fill them in and say, okay, we got this encumbrance. I call it encumbrance. I don't think that's the proper term anymore, but I call it encumbrance. That says, okay, we need to make sure we don't overspend because we've already spent basically X amount of dollars associated with some of the grants.
Right.
And yeah, and adding rows and columns on spreadsheets is easy.
So that would be great and it's something that would come up on a regular monthly basis that we could review and keep track of.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
I think that's all of them that I have right now. Did we want to pursue the project accelerator? Did we vote on that one? Did not. For the 250 hours? It's due Friday. Like I say, go for them all, and we might get 50% of them if we're lucky.
All right, so I move that we pursue the project accelerator for the comprehensive stormwater plan grant application.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we pursue the project accelerator program for the comprehensive stormwater master plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. That finishes our business items. Move on now to discussion items, our fee schedule.
This is also overdue. This should have been back in January, but it's never too late. My little system here, things that I add are highlighted. Here we have certified copies as you go through. I tried to remember just stuff that came up in the last year. We passed a nuisance tree ordinance, but we didn't really have any teeth. The town marshal didn't have a mechanism to, for enforcement. So these are all numbers that I made up. 2650 is the maximum the court can impose here in our municipal court, and that's where I came up with that. So as you go through, there's other stuff. So I'm looking for feedback if there's categories that you guys remember that I've overlooked, send them my way, suggestions on prices and whatnot, and then I'll compile that, put together a final draft and it to you for a vote. The land use, oops. The land use stuff is where we spent a lot of time in the past. And there's different approaches on how to charge for planning and zoning expenses, so. I have a note in the bottom. I can keep talking about this. Probably way too long. I have a note in the bottom right here. We spent a lot on baseline engineering last year. And but I have a pretty good idea of what that number is. And I can tell you we didn't recover, 10% of it. So we had this note for subdivision and rezoning applications was the only thing I could charge pass-through on. And that didn't account for too much of our total expenditure. So, one approach would just be to have complete pass-through so the applicant pays the full expense. Applicants don't like that. It's a moving target. You don't know what it's going to cost. Another thing that I could do, Baseline did do a good job of giving me very itemized invoices. So I could like average what a minor site plan application ended up costing, and we could have that be the fee. So some different ideas, and I'll be looking for what you guys favor.
Question, do you have a guesstimate on what that average would be for the minor? Was it 1,000 or?
It was like shockingly high,
Yeah.
but no, and I could get that really quick. It wouldn't be hard to do. I could send that to you guys as a correspondence in the meantime, so.
Okay, bring this back next meeting, to see if we want to make any changes. And again, board, get your input into the clerk.
Question? Yeah, I'd like to know the philosophy that underlays our fee schedule. Are we trying to just recoup our administrative costs in doing that business? Or are we trying to generate revenue from our citizens?
I would think we're just trying to recoup our actual expenditure. It's really up to you guys ultimately.
Yeah, well, I don't know what it's been in the past, how was this originated? How was it passed? Do you guys want to look at it as a revenue stream or just a pass through, a public service for our citizens?
Okay, if we choose to try to go down the revenue stream path, we need to probably chat with the legal folks to make sure we can actually legally even do that.
Sure.
I don't know. And so, but that just popped into my head. When you say revenue generation, to me, that almost sounds like tax. And yeah.
There's two things going on. I think the model traffic code stuff where you see MTC in here might be set by statutory. I think the town marshal is dying to tell us more about that. Stuff like the gazebo rental is totally up to us. And that is generating revenue. It's just facilities rental. We own it. We can do whatever we want with it. Am I right there?
So I can't speak to the rest of it, but for the model traffic code, like it's not a revenue stream. It's a disciplinary action, if you will. And so I don't know that's, and in ours, you see the traffic codes here, there's 1,200 traffic laws in the model traffic code. And we have, I think, a representation of like 50 in here. And so we need to, as I was looking at it, Bo, like you asked me to, we need to somehow streamline that as well. So, but as far as your discussion with dollars, then it wouldn't be a revenue stream Does it generate revenue? Yes. But is that the reason for doing it? No, it's to gain compliance from
Understood.
the
We're
motoring
gonna,
public.
we're gonna
so-
change, the label,
Yeah.
but you and I both know that a lot
Oh.
of small towns
Yes,
depend on it for their operations.
I get you. Absolutely. Absolutely. So how you label it is very important. I think caution. I think caution, like what we're saying, is probably the best, better part of valor there. So,
A question while you're there.
Sure.
You said there's 50. In
ish.
order,
I didn't count for exactly, but
in order for you to cite a civil penalty, does it have to be listed?
so no, it does not. So if it's not listed in this, then we put it in there to the judge and then the judge decides what it should be. But as I was looking at the model traffic code, you have different levels of traffic infractions, from like 1 to 5, I think. And I think if you get traffic infraction 3, it's $75, or if it's traffic infraction 1, which would be higher, then it's $150. That's something that needs to be looked at as well, because you see a lot of them up there are either 50, 75, and I think there was a couple that were 100 or 150, and some of them are summonses. You have to go to court and a judge has to decide for you. But it depends on the level. So I think if we could eliminate a lot of this with just putting in level 1 traffic infraction will be this amount type of a thing.
Oh,
We just need to go through all of it and look at it and then decide if what dollar amount best fits with those infractions. So I'd like to offer that my chunk of this needs a lot more work. So
thank you.
you're welcome.
And one that we did find kind of because someone came in and basically asked for a trench permit. And we didn't have it on the fee schedule, but we actually have found a trench permit in our, basically on our network drive. This has got a complicated formula with it. I would just assume we just do a flat fee for dirt and then a flat fee for asphalt.
So may I? I apologize for interrupting. So excavation is a little bit different on your fee schedule. I would really convince you to look at excavations a little bit differently, how we've looked at any of the other items on this fee schedule. You're going to want any of your excavations to be bonded. And anybody working into your right of way, you're going to want that work to be bonded. That's pretty much the average across the board. So if you guys would give me some time to work on that as well, I can reach out to other municipalities, see what we have, get us in line with what other towns and small towns are doing, something that's reasonable, and apply it to ours.
Thank you. I wasn't aware of the bonding requirements.
I have another piece on that this is something I worry about. Dusty's going to kill me right now, but I think one piece that's missing here is I would like to see something where Public Works looks at the road that's about to be dug up before it's dug up and then looks at it after the work is done to assess. Like, I think something that's happening commonly is these guys are trenching in a frozen road and then the road thaws out and it's subsiding. And then we have to go out and fix a low spot or a divot. And this, frequently ends up at $25. If you play out this formula, you end up with this minimum $25 charge. And it doesn't cover our labor or equipment or dirt. And if it's cement, it's, a pothole. So it's really expensive.
Don't you think that our permitting, if there's more details in the permitting process for compaction and backfill specs, that kind of thing would be avoided?
Absolutely. I'm very, that was kind of like my bread and butter. So I'll make sure to get something to you guys that lays all that out.
Well, it looks like there's a lot more homework to do on this one. Should we table it?
It's a discussion item. It's not a business item.
Well, I
so-
think you were suggesting that we roll this into the next
Oh, yeah.
business item next meeting.
Yeah.
But then how are we going to get our questions answered? Like, I'd like
we
to
can
know
just
what
roll
our
it.
philosophy is going to be in our fee schedule. Is it
Would you want to just roll it into the next meeting as a further discussion?
at your pleasure?
That's are we under a timeline crunch on this at all?
No, the existing fee schedule stands until
Okay.
it's board modified. But there's some big categories that, we just need to look at and get it in front of you guys. So I think we will need that month. I think that's a good timeline.
Okay, so
for-
it
for
sounds like
everybody.
let's bring this back for discussion again next month.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The next item was 7B, the BOT priorities. Did we already discuss that?
No, we haven't, but that segues into the document that Caleb provided. And I think if you're okay with that timeline and
Yeah.
and everything, that's maybe covered.
Okay. Item 8A was the correspondence that alerted me to the water project for the 250 hours. I think I was right. Let me look at that again, make sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, project.
Here's a
alert.
note.
That
It
was
says add
project
it to the agenda, so I did.
Yeah. That was the notice I got for Project Accelerator that's due Friday. So, okay, with that, we move on to item number 9, our second public comment. Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment? Anyone on Zoom?
Not seeing anything from Zoom.
Okay, with that, it's 8:51 and we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.